Hello, and thank you for joining me for the second portion of the parents' meeting in preparing their children for the sacrament of reconciliation. My name is Kate Helgrud, and I'm the coordinator for faith formation for preschool and elementary students at St. Joseph's. First, reconciliation. It's a big mouthful for little children. Reconciliation may be the first 6-syllable word that they will learn. But what a beautiful word to learn. It means to put something together that was broken, to heal, to mend, to be friends again. Teach your child what this word means. It encompasses the entire meaning of the sacrament, much more than the words penance or confession. In this video, I will talk a little bit about preparation for your child, review the items in your folder, and then if there are any questions and answers, give you my contact information. Reconciliation has a twofold movement. Movement of the Christian who has sinned and who now responds to God's call and seeks forgiveness. The movement of God who rushes to meet the sinner, offering the forgiveness that brings reconciliation. We want to prepare the children for the sacramental experience of God's love, a love that seeks us out, forgives, and reconciles us to God and one another. I often think about the image of the forgiving Father from the scripture story of the prodigal son. He waited and waited for his son to come back, scanning the horizon day after day, and when he first saw his son coming, ran out to meet him, gave him a big hug, and welcomed him back without a word of harshness or blame. Can't you just see the tears of joy streaming down the face as he beholds his son again? Can't you feel the great love that he has for his son as he holds him in his arms? This is the experience of God's love that I would wish for all the children who are going through this process of making their first reconciliation. I want them to feel hugged by God and held in his arms. If you open up the purple folder that your child has been sent home from school, faith formation classes, or was picked up in the parish office, there will be some books and papers that we will go through now. The first is this parent's journal. This is something that is a benefit for you and not something that will be handed back in. So there are 2 copies, one for each parent or a parent and another adult's family member. On the inside are some reflection questions for you to answer on your own, and then the back has some discussion questions that you can answer and then discuss with either your spouse or another family member. And this is just a way for you as the parent to think critically about this sacrament. When was the last time that you went to reconciliation? Do you remember your first reconciliation? What are some hopes you have for your child? And new understanding from watching Father Larry's video about reconciliation. The next sheet in the folder is a yellow one, and it gives an outline of how this preparation time is going to go. Now, you don't have to follow this, but it is a straightforward and easy way to have you and your child learning with the textbook. So the book has 6 chapters, and each chapter is 10 pages long. If you look at the suggested schedule, I have down to do a chapter a week. Of course, you can do more than that if you wish, if your child is eager. However, if you do more than a chapter a week, just make sure you're not cramming it either at the beginning of our preparation time or right before interviews, because I think we all know that when you cram, you're not truly remembering the information that you've learned. At the bottom of the sheet are notes on our interview schedule and the dates that are chosen for first reconciliation. If you've had older children go through this process before, or you've just seen mentions in the bulletin, you'll notice that typically First Reconciliation is celebrated in December, as is pretty typical for parishes to offer and encourage reconciliation in Advent and Lent, respectfully before Christmas and Easter. This year, just with so many changes and the likelihood of uncertainties, we wanted to give families some extra wiggle room. We wanted to give families some extra wiggle room in case things change in the state, region, family, what have you. So knowing this, there's plenty of time to work on projects, finish the textbook, do interviews. So hopefully you will find time to make this schedule or a similar one work for your family. The next sheet in the folder is the baptismal informational form, and I've actually updated it a little bit this year in order to try to make it a little bit clearer for parents as you're filling this out. I have this on a bright colored piece of paper, so that way hopefully it sticks out at you and is a reminder for you to hand it in either to your child's teacher, catechist, or you can drop it off in the parish office. No matter where your child is getting their classes, digital learning, in-person faith formation, or at St. Joseph's School, I do need this form back. We need to make sure that children have been baptized before receiving other sacraments. That's true for any sacramental preparation. So I've broken the sheet up into part A, B, and C, and at the top there are 3 scenarios. You just check mark the one that is correct for your child, and in the parentheses afterward it has instructions to either fill out all 3 parts or just 1 or 2 parts. This form is due to the office at the end of November, as we will go through our baptismal records and make sure everything is in place. And also, in case your child was not baptized at St. Joseph's, sometimes it takes parishes a little while to transfer baptismal records. And so if they were not baptized at St. Joseph, we will need a copy of that baptismal certificate, and that can take a little while. So if you know that your child wasn't baptized at St. Joseph's, sooner rather than later, call that parish, ask for a baptismal certificate if you do not have one at home. The next sheets are a dark purple color, and there are 3 sides of information, and one of those is on a front and back sheet. One is the Sacrament of Reconciliation. It's just a simple formula that has the 6 different steps. So once you are done reviewing the book with your child and it's on to review time, I really encourage practicing with your child. And if they're uncomfortable with that, that's fine. That's normal. They don't have to tell you their sins. But if you practice having each of you sit in a chair and just saying the first lines, going through the first couple steps, and then the last part of reconciliation, so they feel a little bit more comfortable with it. That is definitely an option that I would encourage. The other dark purple side, it has the vocabulary for reconciliation. There are 10 words here, and they are all bold in the textbook. So by the end of your child's preparation, they should be able to know what all of these words or phrases mean. And then the last of the dark purple sheets is just a copy of a children's examination of conscience. We don't touch on this really until they are finished with their textbook, and then we focus more on the examination of conscience. So keep this as a reference copy, and then when you do actually have your child come for their first reconciliation, you can bring it to the church as well and have them reading it beforehand. There is another stapled packet in your folder. This is a lighter purple color with some front and back sheets. The first page is the act of contrition. If you are my age or around my age, which I'm not going to tell you what it is different than what we learned, or possibly what your child's grandparents learned as well. And while it's okay to teach them the version you know or a spouse, this is the one that is in the book and that they are learning in their religion classes as well. So if you're able to get them to memorize this version, that's what I recommend. But if it's more of a challenge for you to memorize it as well, or if they already know the traditional version, that is completely acceptable. The main point of the act of contrition is to express sorrow for your sins and resolve to try to do better in the future. On the other side of that is just a resource for you as parents. It has 7 different ways to creatively memorize the act of contrition. While your child does not need to have the prayer memorized for their first reconciliation, they definitely do need to be comfortable with it and reciting it. So as you know, Father Larry is always quick to share, it does not need to be memorized. We do make a point that they do need to be comfortable with it. And as I will tell children too, you go to the sacrament of reconciliation for the rest of your life. And each time the priest will ask you to say this prayer. So eventually it will be memorized. It just might take some time, and that's okay. So you can look over these, and since there are different ways of learning for different children, you can do a couple or all of them that work for your child. The last part of the stapled packet is the close method, which is basically fill in the blanks. And this is a great way to memorize whatever it is you're trying to memorize, in this case, the act of contrition. So there are 4 different versions. One is fairly easy, fewer fill in the blank spots, and then there are 2 intermediate ones, and then the last sheet has quite a few fill in the blanks. So you don't have to do this with your child, but if this is a kind of way that they learn and memorize things, then go for it. The last packet in your child's folder are a bunch of worksheets that are stapled together. You do not have to do all of these, but I definitely recommend doing at least a couple. Now, it doesn't say it on all of them since parts got cut off, but on most of them at the bottom, it will say what chapter the worksheet goes with. So for this one, that's accident or sin, it says at the bottom, chapter 3. So when you are done with chapter 3, you can do this worksheet. As I send out my weekly emails, once we're starting this process, just encouraging you to kind of keep on track following that calendar that was in the front of the folder. I will also be including, if you're doing some or all of the worksheets, worksheet A goes with the first chapter, just since, as you can see, it got cut off on this page. On the other side of the folder, there are 3 books, and we are going to talk about them now. The first book I'd like to talk about actually is, it kind of looks like a catalog. It's the purple shiny one. That is a parent resource. It's not a teacher manual, but I do encourage you to be looking it over before you start each chapter with your child. There are some different articles in there, and usually for a number of chapters it will have ways to live that chapter in your home, or putting that chapter in faith into practice for the week. The main thick book is your child's textbook, and as I said before, it's about 10 pages a chapter, so pretty doable to do a chapter each week. There are plenty of pictures and some activity pages. The stickers for certain pages are in the back of the book, and it says at the bottom of the sticker sheet which page or which chapter it goes to. My recommendation is to try to at least pick the same time each week to be going over these lessons. So whether you pick Wednesday evenings or Sunday afternoons, whatever is convenient for your family. 10 minutes before you're going to work with your child, just take out their textbook and read over that chapter so you are comfortable with it, know what will be discussed with that chapter, and then call your child to you to start the lesson and then go through it together. When you had your child baptized, you took a vow to raise them in the faith, and the Catechism of the Catholic Church also says that we recognize that parents are children's primary teachers, which is why we choose this particular reconciliation and Eucharistic program for families at St. Joseph, so that way you are being the primary teacher in your home. So if it feels a little overwhelming, I am definitely here to help. I can give you some tips or resources, but I know that you will do very well with this. The textbook is pretty easy to go through. There are, the words they're supposed to know are in bold, and this is something that maybe you will learn a little bit more about the sacrament as well, because, catechesis and learning about our faith is never ending, and it's always good to get a refresher as well. So the main textbook is something that you and your child will work on together. And the activity sheet should be completed, because when it is time for your child's interview, we will ask to see the book, page through, and make sure those activity pages have been done. Then the final book or booklet on that side of the folder is a smaller one that says My Reconciliation booklet. This is something that your child should do on their own once you have completed the larger textbook. If your child gets stuck on anything or needs help, you can certainly help them, but then just keep in the back of your mind what that was, and maybe go back and review that with your child. So a little bit about the interview process, whether you choose come January, depending on what everything looks like in Minnesota and Moorhead, they'll either be in the gathering place face-to-face, but you can certainly also choose to have the interview done over Zoom with myself, Father Nate, and Father Larry. I know the kids definitely can get nervous about interviews, and make sure to reassure them that they're not scary. I always tell the class that we're not trying to trick them or ask them questions that they don't know the answer to. A few weeks before interviews, so probably right around Christmas vacation, either right before Christmas vacation or right after, I will send a copy of the interview questions to parents, so you can practice asking those questions to your child. And on that sheet is also the page number that corresponds to where you can find the answer in your child's textbook. I believe there are 10 questions roughly. They're all things that your child should know because it was covered in the book. I will email out more information the closer we get to interviews and our first reconciliation Saturdays. But for now, as you see on the calendar, just have those dates on your calendar. Hopefully we won't have to change anything. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. So I am here to be a resource for you. Please ask me any questions you have, either about the sacrament itself or preparing, or if you want some more resources. If your child is super excited, or they're a really quick learner, or you're trying to just keep their enthusiasm up throughout this time, I definitely have other options, resources, a couple movie options for your child. And I will be sharing a few of those periodically when I send out weekly emails to you. So this is the second half of our parent meeting virtually. Again, please let me know what questions you have. I am so excited to be walking with you during this exciting time of preparation and sacraments. I really have enjoyed visiting the classrooms and look forward to that the rest of the year. I'm excited to be walking with your family during this special time and have a wonderful year.